Una Vida Pueblo was one of the first three great houses started in Chaco Canyon in the mid-9th century. The other two were Pueblo Bonito and Peñasco Blanco. Una Vida means one life in Spanish. It was the name given to it by a Native American guide when Lieutenant James Simpson discovered the Chaco Canyon ruins in 1849. Peñasco Blanco means white bluff. Una Vida is in the Chaco Culture National Historical Park. The visitor center for the park was located adjacent to the ruins of Una Vida. Note also the location of Fajada Butte. This is a view of Chaco Canyon. Pueblo Bonito is several miles to the west of the visitor center. Una Vida could be your first stop after the visitor center. The day I was there, no one else was interested. Una Vida is unimpressive compared to Pueblo Bonito and other great house ruins. In this view, you can easily see the relationship between the ruins of Una Vida and the visitor center. Note the huge gouge in the cliff on the right. This is an artist's conception of what Una Vida might have looked like in its prime. The walls of the ruins are poorly preserved, and only about 20 rooms were excavated. So, this rendering has to be considered rather speculative. The Pueblo was thought to have about 100 rooms in the main part of the structure. Note that the Pueblo is thought to have been L-shaped rather than D-shaped like Pueblo Bonito. Another 30 to 40 rooms formed a curving wall that connected the ends of the L and enclosed the plaza. The trail to the ruins starts at the parking lot of the visitor center. At the start of the trail, you can see the information display. This is the display. On it is the sketch made in 1849 by an artist with the Simpson expedition. The current view of the ruins is about the same as it was back in 1849. Limited excavations were done in the early 1900s and the late 1950s. In 1979, the open rooms were backfilled with dirt to preserve them, hence the current similarity of the ruins today to the ruins found in 1849. The walk to the ruins goes past that big gouge in the cliff. I found the view interesting and attractive. This is striking landscape. I like the way you could see the various strata in the rocks. There were many birds flitting among the hardy shrubs and grasses on the canyon floor, but the birds are too small and too quick to get pictures of them. Approaching the ruins. Right away you can see how much labor must have gone into carving and shaping all those stones used in the construction of the walls. There is a lot of debris from the collapsed walls, all covered by hundreds of years of blowing dirt and vegetation. Steps have been constructed for visitors to the ruins. This is the fine example of a wall constructed 1,000 years ago or so, and you can walk through that doorway. This is what you see looking to the left when you go through the door. Note the fine masonry work. You can see the visitor center in the distance, but I assume this was a finished enclosed room when it was built. And this is what you see looking to the right after going through the door. Chaco Canyon is about 1.5 miles wide. These walls seem to have been cruder than the other one. The blocks lying on the ground look much bigger than the stones used in the previous wall. More steps. Very handy though. Walking amongst all the stone debris would have been hazardous. These walls look much cruder than the first one. They must have been constructed much earlier than the first one. There was a steep trail up to the petroglyph site. There were very few steps as such, and it was a rough trail. He wasn't having any trouble moving about on the trail. This is one of the petroglyph panels on the cliff face. There are many petroglyphs in Chaco Canyon. Petroglyphs are images that are scratched into the rocks. Pictographs are images that are painted on rocks. It was worth the careful climb up the slope to see the petroglyphs, but what I liked even more, because there are more petroglyphs in the park, was the fantastic view from this spot. Una Vida was constructed on a significant rise at the base of the cliff. It must have been visible from miles away as you approach the canyon from the south. You can see the visitor center and 400-foot-tall Fajada Butte. Fajada Butte means banded butte in Spanish. Access to the butte by tourists was prohibited starting in the 1980s. Too bad. It would have been interesting. Around the base of the butte are the remains of many pit houses, which are permanent, partially below-ground dwellings that predate the Chacoan civilization. But the butte was important to the Chacoans too. There are cliff dwellings on the butte. You can see a ramp on the far right side of the butte built by the Chacoans with considerable effort. Most fascinating is the Sun Daggers site. 3 large stone slabs channel light and shadow onto 2 spiral petroglyphs. Daggers of light interacted with the large spiral in such a way as to mark the summer and winter solstices, and with the small spiral to mark the equinoxes. Unfortunately, in 1989, the stone slabs shifted, and the phenomenon no longer works. This view shows the entire Vida site. And note how far into the distance you can see. The 2 cracks in the canyon floor are Chaco Wash and Fajada Wash. The one-way park road going west is between Vida and Chaco Wash. That silver spot just to the right of the words Fajada Wash is an RV returning on the park road going east. This guy looks like he eats pretty well. His color is great camouflage. A view heading down toward the part of the ruins I hadn't visited yet. That RV has moved closer. Another wall remnant with convenient steps. Building these massive walls took a prodigious amount of work. This is the remains of a kiva with Fajada Butte in the background. As I was standing at this spot admiring the view, I wondered if Chacoans had done the same thing, made the difficult climb up the slope just so they could appreciate the view of their Pueblo, the canyon floor, the important Fajada Butte, and the land stretching for miles into the purple distance. I like to think they did.